Welcome back, deep divers. Today, we're going deep on something that messes with all of us, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's this sneaky thing called the sunk cost fallacy. Basically, it's that feeling of sticking with something even when it's like a total disaster, just
Yeah.
because we've already put in so much, time, money, effort.
Right, right.
Ever sat through a terrible movie
Oh, yeah.
just because you paid for the ticket?
All the time.
That's it. Sunk cost fallacy in action.
Classic example.
To help us break this down, I've got our expert here.
Hi.
We're going to figure out how this whole thing works and hopefully learn to make some smarter choices.
Exactly. It's fascinating how this fallacy pops up everywhere,
Really?
From tiny decisions to these huge, massive projects, like billions of dollars worth of projects.
Wow. Okay. So first things first, what exactly are we talking about when we say sunk costs?
Right, so there's this paper, Sunk Cost Fallacy, Why We Can't Let Go. It explains it pretty well. Basically, sunk costs are anything you put into a decision, time, effort, money, resources.
Mm-hmm.
The catch is you can't get them back, no matter what.
Like gone.
Gone, like spilled milk.
Oh.
It's gone. And there's no point in, crying over it.
Okay. Spilled milk. Got it. So why do we do this? I mean, if it's gone, what? Hold on.
Well, our brains, they're wired kind of funny.
Yeah.
One big thing is this thing called loss aversion. We as humans, we hate losing way more than we love winning.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that. Makes sense.
And that fear
Yeah.
of losing, man, it can really mess with our decisions. The Concorde, remember that supersonic jet?
Oh, yeah. They talked about that in one of the articles.
Perfect example. Britain and France, they poured billions into this thing.
Hmm.
Billions. Even when it was obvious, like super obvious, that it just wasn't going to work out.
Mm.
But they were so stuck on all the money they'd already spent, they couldn't admit defeat,
So instead of cutting their losses, they just kept.
throwing good money after bad.
Yeah. Wow. That's a pretty big sunk cost.
Huge. And it's not just about the money, right?
What else?
Our brains are amazing at justifying things,
Yeah.
even when the reasons are pretty weak.
Oh, so we're like trying to convince ourselves we made the right call, even when it's like clearly wrong.
Exactly. Like with that Tennessee Toombigby waterway thing.
That was a mess, right?
Total mess. Way over budget. Tons of problems. But the politicians, they kept pushing it, saying stopping would be wasteful.
But they'd already spent so much.
Exactly. They were trapped in this cycle of just justifying the past instead of looking at what was really happening.
And it's not just like governments and big projects, right? This happens in our personal lives too.
All the time.
Yeah.
Relationships are a big one. Staying in a relationship that just isn't working.
Just because you've been together for so long.
Years, yeah. It's like they're scared of losing all that time, even if they're unhappy.
So we let fear make our choices.
It's a powerful force, fear.
Yeah.
And then you've got social pressure too, right? We care what people think.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
So like leaving a relationship after years, that can be really tough because you worry what family, friends will think.
Like the judgment.
Exactly. It's almost another type of sunk cost, that fear of disapproval.
Wow. So many things feeding into this.
Oh, and then there's cognitive dissonance. That adds another layer to this whole thing.
Cognitive dissonance. Remind me what that is again.
It's like when you have two beliefs that clash. So like you think you're a smart person, you make good choices,
Right.
but then you're also clinging to this decision. That's a total disaster. It creates this tension.
Uh-huh.
And to deal with that tension, sometimes you double down on the bad decision. It's like you're trying to prove yourself right even when you know you're wrong.
So our brains are protecting our egos, even if it hurts us in the long run.
It's a self-defense mechanism in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't forget about emotional attachment, right? The
Yeah.
longer we're involved in something, the harder it is to let go.
Yeah.
Even when it makes sense to.
Oh, that makes sense.
Think about that piece of clothing you never wear. It's just sitting in your closet, taking up space.
Oh, yeah. I have a few of those.
But you can't get rid of it because it reminds you of something, some event or a time in your life.
It's like a symbol almost.
Exactly. It represents that past investment. And letting go feels like losing a part of yourself.
Whoa. Okay, so we've got loss aversion, justification, social pressure, cognitive dissonance, emotional attachment, anything else trying to sabotage us.
Oh, one more big one. Over-optimism. That belief that things will get better, that our investment will pay off eventually.
Oh, yeah, the it'll all work out mentality.
Exactly. But that kind of thinking, it can keep us stuck in bad situations.
Yeah.
We don't see the reality that sometimes the best thing is to just cut our losses and move on.
So it's a whole bunch of mental traps working together.
It's a complex web, for sure. And there's even a social aspect to this. Did you know that?
Really? Tell me more about that.
There's this interesting study. It's called the potluck cake experiment. They describe it in what is the sunk cost fallacy, definition and examples.
Okay. Potluck cake.
So they found that people at a potluck, they were more likely to keep eating cake.
Even if they were full.
Stuffed.
Yeah.
But only if they were told the cake was expensive and came from far away.
So it wasn't even their money or effort that went into it.
Nope. But they still felt like they had to get their money's worth.
That's wild.
It shows we're sensitive to the perceived value of things, even if it's not our own investment.
That's something to think about next time I'm at a potluck.
For sure.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We know what sunk costs are and why we get stuck on them.
Lots of psychological factors at play.
But knowing's only half the battle, right?
Exactly. The real trick is learning to break free.
So how do we make smarter decisions? Decisions that aren't based on those sunk costs.
That's what we'll get into next. Let's ditch those metaphorical cake crumbs and find a whole new cake rack.
I'm all for that. Let's do it.
Yeah, finding that new cake. That's the goal. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to shift our thinking, like really shift it.
From the past to the future.
Exactly. Instead of getting hung up on what we've already put in, we got to ask, what's it going to cost to keep going? And what will I get out of it? Is it really worth it?
So being honest with ourselves, basically.
Brutal honesty sometimes. That paper we talked about, Sunk Cost Fallacy, Why We Can't Let Go, it has some really good questions to help with this.
Like what?
Well, one is, what could I be missing out on if I stay stuck here?
Yeah.
You know, with all this time and energy I'm pouring in.
Ooh, that's a good one. Like, what opportunities am I saying no to?
Exactly. And another one is, does this even fit with my long-term goals? Like, where do I actually want to be?
Man, those questions would definitely force me to think hard. Am I really committed to this or just, like, stubborn?
It happens. Sometimes we just got to get some distance, you know, to see things clearly.
Distance, huh?
Yeah, try this. If I could fast forward a year, what advice would my future self give me right now?
Whoa. That's a powerful one. It's like taking the emotion out of it.
Right. It's about being objective, which is super important for fighting this fallacy.
Because it's easy to get lost in our own heads, right?
Totally. Our own little world of biases and all that. The source material, it suggests asking, what would I tell a friend in this same situation?
Oh, that's good. Like suddenly it's so clear when it's not you making the decision.
Right. If I wouldn't tell my friend to pour more money into that failing business, why am I doing it?
Oof, truth bomb.
Uh-uh.
Okay, so we get some distance. We try to be objective. What else helps?
Well, once we've got a clearer view, we can start learning from those past sunk cost moments.
So not just feeling bad about them, but actually using them.
Exactly. Think back to those times you got trapped. What were the signs you missed? What did you ignore? Did things turn out like you expected?
It's like building up a defense system, recognizing those patterns.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help, too. Friends, mentors, even professionals. Sometimes an outside perspective can be huge.
Just like having a guide, right? They can see the stuff you miss.
Exactly. The point is, we're not powerless against this fallacy. We can beat it.
Yeah. It's about understanding what's going on in our heads, looking ahead, and learning from our mistakes.
Right. We can make choices that are good for us, not just based on what we've already lost.
And once we let go of that stuff, that's when the good stuff starts happening. It's like a whole new chapter.
Exactly. It's about taking control, making choices that fit who you are, what you want.
This has been so helpful. I feel like I've got a whole new set of tools now.
Glad to hear it.
But before we wrap things up, I know we have one more big question for our listeners, a real thought-provoker.
We do. It kind of builds on that opportunity cost idea. It's a big one, so buckle up.
Okay, deep divers, we've been digging into this whole sunk cost thing, and honestly, I'm feeling pretty hopeful, like we can actually beat this.
That's a spirit. And to really get you thinking, we want to leave you with this big question, a real head-scratcher.
It goes back to that idea of opportunity cost, basically what we give up by choosing one thing over another.
Right, every decision closes some doors, opens others. So here's the question, and it's a tough one.
What are you missing out on, like right now, by holding on to something that's not working?
That's the heart of it. It's about taking a hard look at, well, everything.
Think about it. That project you're pouring everything into, but it's not making you happy, it's not getting you where you want to go.
Or that relationship. It's draining you. You know it's not good, but you're still there.
What if you let go?
What if you said, okay, that time, that money, it's gone. And holding on is stopping me from finding something better.
It's scary, but exciting too, right?
It is. It's about realizing that sometimes the best choice is to walk away, to open up space for something new.
So, listeners, I want you to really think about this. What are you holding on to?
And what could you achieve if you let it go? What amazing things are waiting for you on the other side?
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. We learned what sunk costs are, all the ways our brains try to trick us.
All those psychological traps, yeah.
But most importantly, we've got tools now. We can actually fight back.
We're not at the mercy of our brains, right?
Yeah.
We have choices.
Letting go isn't about regret. It's about making smart choices for the future.
It's about knowing your worth, knowing what you deserve, and not settling for less.
So, deep divers, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep making choices that make you excited about the future.
And remember, sometimes letting go is the bravest, most powerful thing you can do.
And who knows, maybe that new cake is just around the corner. Until next time.